Video on me using a few things up. So I've been through the cupboards, we've had a bit of a clear out, and we've got some things that kind of a little bit past their best, or a little bit past their sell by date, so it's probably best that we use them up. I have got some. So we found some desiccated coconut. I don't know why I bought it. I think this stuff's vile, absolutely horrible stuff, and whatever ever made it into the bits of coconut just get in my teeth, and I think it's horrible stuff. So, and we have some coconut flour, which is much nicer. So I would advise, if the recipe ever kind of says desiccated coconut, I'd use coconut flour instead. This is a fine one. So because I don't like desiccated coconut, I've ground it in the spice grinder just to get it a little bit finer so it doesn't kind of get into your teeth. So it's a little bit more like a flour. So we've got that to use up. And then we've got some ground almonds, which we're using as well. 2 open packets, which is generally how it works, which I put into one. And then another packet, which is close to the date, is it? Probably closer than... It's probably alright this, but I just kind of think, as we're baking, I see November, November 24, so it's already past its best. And what's the date on that? January 24. Oh, sorry, that's like a year and a bit out of date. Anyway, let's. It smells alright. Yeah, it smells alright. There's no kind of rancid flavour to it, so nuts go off because of the oil in them. And then I've got some. These are the crumbs. So when I've made biscotti in the past, these are the crumbs that are left in the bottom of the biscuit tin. So I've just kind of ground those up. So we're going to make some biscotti using the 2 types of flour, the coconut flour and the ground almond flour, and then we're going to put in this leftover biscotti from the last batch which I made, which will probably either be, well, no, it will be a mixture of cashew flour biscotti and peanut flour biscotti. They were very nice. But what we're going to use, so instead of pretending that's a flour, that's already got sugar in it. So I'll calculate how much, I'll do the recipe in the description, but I'll calculate, we'll class that as half flour and half sugar. So we'll kind of have to take that out of the recipe. So there's not that much in it, so it won't kind of really affect it too much. But if I was just to put that in instead of flour, we'd be adding more sweetness to it. I'm not a huge fan of really sweet things, so we don't want to be adding more sugar to something, making it sweeter. So we'll just kind of class. Did that make sense? I hope that makes sense. But anyway, so it's just a way of using up some crumbs rather than just kind of throwing them out. I would have put them in a cheesecake bottom. So instead of using crushed up biscuits, I would have used well, that's what biscotti are, aren't they? They are crushed up biscuits. But instead of using them in a like a cold set cheesecake base, because they've got peanuts in them, I'd be concerned that with people with peanut allergies. I haven't got a peanut allergy, so I'm not bothered about eating peanuts at home, and anything that contains peanuts doesn't bother me at all. Saying that, we shouldn't tempt fate, should we? So, fatless sponge, we need to calculate what we've got. So we're going to do, the basic recipe is 8 eggs, 450 grams of caster sugar, 450 grams of nut flour, 450 grams of self-raising flour. Whisk up the eggs with the sugar, and then fold in the 3 different types of flour, the self-raising and these 2, which will be kind of combined weight. So it won't be 450 grams of coconut flour and 450 grams of ground almond flour. It'll be those flours combined, and then that amount again of self-raising flour, if that makes sense. And then we'll just class this as just like the normal flour with sugar. But anyway, so and we'll do see if I can do a short version of this as well. So like a short, quickie one of making some biscotti, sound kind of like type of thing, hopefully. And then that'll be that next bit, and it'll just be a little video in itself, because I want to get better at doing short videos. type of thing. Although, when the short ones are long, they're kind of quite tedious. It's lots of little edits, and I'm just like, ugh. And you end up having kind of like to shave off milliseconds to get it down to a minute, which I find a little bit infuriating. But I have made this rod for my own back. Anyway, so we'll see how we go. Nut flour biscotti. Whisk up 8 eggs with 450 grams worth of caster sugar until it looks like that. You don't have to use whole eggs. You can just use egg whites by themselves or a mixture of whole eggs and egg whites. Realise the mixing bowl is a little bit too small and we'll probably have to use a bigger bowl, even though we really wanted to use the whisking bowl to save on washing up. Fold in 450 grams of the nut flour of your choice and 450 grams of self-raising flour. Gently fold everything in together. Pour into a lined baking tray and bake at 180 degrees until it looks like this. Now it's cool, cut into sponge fingers. Arrange the sponge fingers on a tray and dry out in the oven at 100 degrees until crisp and delicious. Right, so these are dried out and we've put them into a container. It's worked. Smashing up the remnants of the old crumbs from biscuits and folded in. Fine, good way of using them up. We certainly don't like waste, and if we're not going to use them in anything else, we might as well fold them up and crush them up and fold them through into a biscotti. So, how do they taste? Bearing in mind, I'm not a fan of desiccated coconut, but I think I pured it enough, well, ground it enough that we've kind of lost that horrible stuff that gets stuck in your teeth. Nice. Nice and coconutty. And a little bit almondy as well, so that was delicious. I was slightly concerned that I'd done the wrong ratio of nut flour to self-raising flour, but that's fine, is that? Thoroughly delicious. Works with most nut flours. I'm not going to say all nut flours, because I'll never get round to making it with all nut flours, and obviously there'll be some nut flours that are poisonous, won't there? So when they say bleach kills 99% of germs, it'll probably kill all germs, but they just haven't tested the bleach on all germs, so that's why it's 99.9%, because there's always that tiny percentage that they haven't tested the bleach on to kill germs. So coconut flour, peanut flour, cashew flour. This was what was that? What was the film from the guys who did Spinal Tap? Was it the one about was it Best in Show, where there was a guy who was showing a dog, and he said that before he showed dogs he was a nut expert, and then he just started rattling off all the different types of nuts that he could think about. And that's me now, trying to think of all these nuts that I can't think of, like macadamia nuts. So anything kind of like that to use as a nut flour, is gonna work. And obviously some nut flours are more expensive than others, but if you can get a hold of, I don't know if you can get a hold of peanut flour anymore, but peanut flour, particularly delicious in biscotti like this. And then there's obviously cashew nuts and almonds and all those type of things, which are more expensive. Not personally, I'm not a fan of walnuts. I find them a little bit bitter, but that's probably because I haven't bought a very good quality walnut. But even walnuts, something, if you're a fan of walnuts, they'd work. But anyway, so those are delicious, and they will be nice just to have in the cupboard when I fancy a biscuit and a cup of coffee. A success.